Hi, it's Misuma Umejono, and I'll be walking you through the overview of the U.S. international air traffic analysis from the. All right, so I'll be walking you through the analysis on the U.S. air traffic um, data. So this dashboard analyzes the focusing on flight volume, passenger traffic, airports, carriers, and then scheduling patterns. So looking at the KPIs, we can see that the total flights, we have about 39 million total flights, and we have the charter flights for about 5%, and the scheduled flights for about 95%, and we have the average passengers per flight to be around 112.83, which is approximately 113. And then we have the total passengers to be 4 billion. Okay, this shows that the US international air travels is overwhelmingly dominated by scheduled commercial flights rather than charters. Moving on to the total flights by use, we can see, moving on to the total flights by the US airport, we can see that Miami is the busiest international airport, followed by JFK, LAX and ORD, and then EWR. And then smaller volumes from airports like the DFW, the ATL, the IAD, the SFO, and so on. And then we can see that the major coastal and hub airports handle the highest international traffic. Moving on to the charter and scheduled flights, we can see here that the scheduled flights are dominated with a high percent of 95, and followed by the charter flights with just a percentage of 5. And then we can see that the international travels relies heavily on regular airline schedules, indicating stable and predictable demand. Okay, moving on to the total flights per year, we can see the steady growth from the 1990s, which picks up to just before the the 2020s, which picks up to just before around the 2020, and then a sharp decline in 2020. Means that the drastic drop in 2020 reflects the impact of global travel restrictions. So we moving on to the total flights, moving on to the focus of the year 2018. We can see that the total flights, we have 1.7 million flights, and we have the total passenger of 2000 of 2 million of 2.3 223.9 million, which shows that the 2018 represents a strong pre-pandemic year with high passenger movements and flight activities. So moving on to the total flights by carrier, we see that the American Airlines, the AA, leads significantly, followed by the United Airlines, the UA, and the Delta, DL. Other carriers contribute smaller shares, and we can notice a few major airlines dominate the US international air travels. Moving on to the Here we have the flight and the passengers trend over time. We can see that both flight and passenger counts increase steadily. Passenger growth outpaces flight growth. This suggests improved aircraft capacity and higher passenger loads per flight. Alright, lastly, we have the monthly passenger trend. These passenger numbers rise towards the mid-year, peaking around the summer months and a slight dip towards the end of the year. And we can just notice that the international travel demand is seasonal, with summer being the busiest periods around June, July, August. And then the US international air traffic grew consistently over 3 decades, driven primarily by scheduled flights, major hub airports, and dominant airlines. Passenger growth outpacing flight growth highlights increased efficiency, while the sharp 2020 decline in the while the sharp 2020 decline clearly shows the impact of the global disruptions.